Hello again. In this segment, I'm going to talk about my maker's mark and my logo and whether we're making stuff in the shop or at some other shop and stuff like that. So if you have watched one of my earlier videos, you guys will know that I have hired 2 new employees full-time, which is pretty awesome. One of those employees is a machinist, which is a little weird because I've been the machinist in this shop for the last 6 years or so. It's great to offload some of the prototyping and production work. It's also, I'll be honest, it's a little weird to not be running the machines all the time and not to 100%, be on top of what is going on inside this little box over here. But that's the way it goes. I want to grow. I want to do more cool things and deliver more awesome. So it seemed like the best way to do that was to bring somebody else on. Otherwise, I just stand in front of the machine the whole time and I don't get to work on anything. So that brings us to the maker's mark. So in the past, my strategy was basically anything that is made here in the shop by me, as opposed to just here in the shop, has had my maker's mark on it, which is, I probably should have worn the shirt, but it's a little circle with the kind of J and H lettering on it. So in the past, I've been stamping that, never did it on quick releases, but mostly on pens and flashlights. And I have been, debating basically since April, I guess, when I brought Gilbert on, whether my stuff was going to continue to have my maker's mark on it or not. And then on the flip side of that, stuff that I had sent out, like the ready-made flashlights, for example, I was stamping my logo onto that. And then when I was having pens made at Hirsch, where Gilbert used to work, pens, so I was lasering my logo on that, whereas in the past I'd been putting my maker's mark on those. And then I think one of the first jobs we ran when he came in here was to make a bunch of pens. And so at that point I was like, I have no idea what to do as far as marking them, and I ended up stamping some of them and I ended up lasering some of them. I hope it hasn't been too confusing for you guys, but at this point everything is back in the shop. Pens, we have not run a batch of alpha flashlights, or at least ready-mades yet in the shop. We're gearing up to do that in the next couple months when I run out. So I don't know, I've just been going back and forth about what the appropriate way to do that is. Like, does it matter if I actually did the machining, even though this kind of does it, but I program it and I stand there and measure and adjust? I guess the short version is I have decided, and I reserve the right to change my mind, but I have decided to retire the maker's mark. I think the main thing is it gets really complicated deciding what to put on what, and like with the Kappa keychains, I've always put my logo on it just because that was the easiest thing to do. I didn't have a stamp or an easy way to stamp that because that takes a lot of force and I didn't want to crush the keychains or make some kind of really complicated fixturing. So I just threw them on the laser, put the logo on it, it looks nice. So all those are made in-house. So it seemed like the most appropriate thing to do, and honestly, to a degree, one of the easier things to do is to just go ahead and put my logo on everything, because I am not so much just an individual maker now. I'm sort of trying to grow this thing into an actual business. So yeah, for right now, everything going forward should have a logo on it. We're doing some really cool stuff with the laser. So if you guys follow my Instagram channel, I post kind of videos of lasering from time to time. So if you want to check that out, head on over to the Instagram. I should probably also make some YouTube videos on lasering. I actually have 3 different lasers right now. I have 2 epilogue lasers. One's a 12 by 24 CO2 laser, which essentially marks stuff that is carbon based, like I mean, mostly plastics, wood. I mean, those are the two main things. You can do leather, but it's kind of a mess. But yeah, essentially anything that's carbon-based. I have another Epilogue that is a fiber laser with a 12 by 24 bed, and that pretty much does metal. The only thing is with that, because like a CNC machine, I guess, the laser head actually travels back and forth to make the marks, and it sort of slowly moves down and down. It's relatively slow, so it's good if you want to do a single pass on basically a whole tray full of parts, but it's not very good for lasering something that's really deep. And I guess we're sort of talking about lasers now, but I'm in it, so we'll just talk about the third one, which is a Tykma mini lase. And this is also a fiber laser, but it's called a scanning or galvo laser. And basically what that means, instead of actually driving the head with the beam in it, it actually just has a little mirror that moves back and forth. So it is like super fast back and forth. But the engraving area is only 4 inches by 4 inches. And that is because as you fire the beam down and move it sideways, this actually changes geometrically the distance. And you've got a focal plane, so as that laser starts to move too far away, that distance increases and it starts to get out of focus. And you can also, if you're doing a deep engraving, you'll sort of get a pyramid shape because it's not lasering straight up and down, it's coming from a point. And then like that. Anyway, if you want to see some laser videos or some more explanation of how lasers work and what they're good for and stuff like that, as always, comments. And you know, people on the YouTube always say, be sure to subscribe and like. So I don't know, should I say that? Be sure to subscribe and like. I would appreciate it. We'll see you next time.